My brother borrowed $50,000 for his guaranteed successful business venture. When it failed, he avoided me for years. But when I showed up at his daughter's wedding, what I announced during my speech made him break down in front of everyone. All right, so I've been debating whether to post this for weeks now. Just opened my mailbox to find a gold-trimmed wedding invitation from my brother Ralph, the same brother who ghosted me after I loaned him $50,000, the same brother who blocked my number when I asked about repayment, the same brother who's apparently dropping serious cash on his daughter's wedding while I'm still paying off the second mortgage I took out to help him. My blood is literally boiling as I type this. Look, I'm not proud of this, but I've been stalking his Instagram. Ralph is living it up. New car, vacation pics from Cancun, expensive golf clubs. Meanwhile, my wife Juniper and I had to cancel our plans to renovate our bathroom because we're still recovering financially from his temporary loan 3 years ago. Real talk. Family and finances don't mix. I learned this lesson the most expensive way possible. Some backstory. Ralph is 4 years older than me and has always been the ideas guy. Growing up, he was constantly dragging me into his scheme, from neighborhood lawn mowing businesses to selling homemade energy drinks in high school. Each venture ended the same way. Ralph would get bored, things would fall apart, and somehow I'd be the one left holding the bag. But we're adults now, right? People grow up. That's what I stupidly told myself when he approached me 3 years ago with his meal delivery service idea for specialized diets. He had charts, projections, website mock-ups, the whole 9 yards. The market research looked legit. He even had testimonials from beta customers. Found out later those were fake. I had been saving for years, living in a modest house, driving the same car for a decade, budgeting every dollar, having those boring index funds instead of crypto or whatever. Juniper and I were finally getting ahead, planning to buy a rental property as passive income. Then Ralph shows up with his business plan. Needs 50 grand to secure a commercial kitchen space and initial inventory. Said he'd have initial investment back to me in 6 months. Full repayment with interest within a year. Was I suspicious? Hell yes. Did I still agree? Also yes. Why? Because he brought his wife Gladys and daughter Abigail to dinner and had them tell me how much this meant to their family, how this business would finally provide stability, how proud they were of Ralph for turning things around. Abigail was starting college soon, and this would help with tuition. The whole performance. I'm such an idiot. I made him sign a formal loan agreement, 6% interest, monthly payments starting after 90 days, a real document with real consequences. You know what that paper is worth now? Absolutely nothing when the person who signed it blocks your number and moves across town. The first red flag appeared about 2 months in. Ralph stopped sending those detailed weekly updates. My texts went from being answered immediately to hours later, then days. The business Instagram he'd been updating daily suddenly went quiet. Then came the excuses, supply chain issues, website developer problems, packaging redesigns, always something just around the corner from being fixed. Month 4, Ralph starts dodging my calls entirely. Month 5, I drive to his house and see a brand new SUV in the driveway. When I knock, Gladys tells me he's at a business conference. I later saw him tagged in photos at a music festival that same weekend. By month 6, I'm getting seriously concerned. I calculate the numbers. $50,000 loan plus $3,000 in interest. So far, plus $2,500 in fees from taking money out of my investment. Early equals sign $55,500. That's just gone. Then I get a call from my buddy who works at a local grocery store. He mentioned seeing Ralph buying up a bunch of the store's pre-packaged meals and transferring them into plain containers. Apparently, Ralph had been faking deliveries to keep up appearances while the business was failing. Month 8. Complete radio silence. Ralph has blocked me on everything. Changed his email. His wife Gladys doesn't respond to messages. I even tried reaching out to Abigail, who just sent back a vague message about her dad going through some stuff and how I should give him space. Give him space after he took my money and ran? After Juniper and I had to cancel our vacation? After we've been eating ramen twice a week to catch up on bills? I considered taking legal action, but the attorney I consulted was blunt. Yes, I could get a judgment, but collecting would be a nightmare, especially from family. The costs might exceed what I'd recover. Would I really put a lien on my niece's college fund? Month 12. I find out through mutual friends that Ralph's business completely folded. Not just failed, it never really existed beyond some initial deliveries. All smoke and mirrors. All my money gone. And where was Ralph during all this? Apparently stressed and dealing with failure. Poor him, right? Must be tough dealing with failure while driving a new car and taking weekend trips. The worst part? He told everyone in the family that I gifted him the money, that I was being weirdly aggressive about wanting repayment for a no-strings-attached family gift. My own parents started asking why I was harassing him over a gift. So for 3 years now, I've been working overtime, taking side gigs, selling stuff we don't absolutely need, all to dig out of this financial hole. Juniper has stood by me through all of this, but I've seen the disappointment in her eyes when we had to postpone starting a family because we just couldn't afford it right now. 3 damn years. And then today, this fancy wedding invitation arrived. Abigail is getting married to some guy named Aiden at the Oak Ridge Estate Vineyard. If you're not familiar, that's easily a $50,000 plus venue. The invitation has actual gold foil on it. The RSVP card comes with its own wax seal kit. You know what's weird about getting stabbed in the back? The second time doesn't hurt less. It hurts more. Looking at this invitation, this expensive, fancy invitation, knowing that my money, my sacrifice is probably helping fund this extravagant wedding while I'm still digging out of debt. That's a special kind of pain. There's a handwritten note from Ralph on the invitation. Would mean the world to have you there. Family is everything. Can you believe the audacity? Family is everything. So here's where I am now. The wedding is in 6 weeks. Abigail has always been a good kid, and I don't want to punish her for her father's action. But showing up and pretending everything is fine? Watching Ralph play the role of successful father of the bride, while I'm still financially crippled from his betrayal? Or maybe, just maybe, this is the perfect opportunity to finally confront him, in front of everyone he knows, when he can't run away or block my number. Is it petty to plan revenge at a wedding? Probably. Do I care anymore? Absolutely not. I haven't told Juniper about my plans yet. She thinks we should just decline the invitation. But after 3 years of sleepless nights and financial stress, I think Ralph deserves to feel some consequences. Update. So my previous post absolutely blew up. Thanks for all the support and advice, even the ones calling me an asshole for planning to confront Ralph at his daughter's wedding. But after spending the past few weeks finalizing my plans, I'm more convinced than ever that this is the only way to make things right. Look, I'm not proud of this, but I called the venue listed on the invitation, dropped $50 on each plate. Each plate. That's not including the open bar, band, flowers, or whatever else Ralph is blowing cash on. The coordinator I spoke with was super chatty, mentioned they were so excited to host since they rarely book the entire property for one event. A quick Google search tells me the full venue rental starts at 20 grand. Starts at real talk. Seeing that number hit me like a sledgehammer. That's money that could have gone toward paying me back. That's my money being spent on champagne fountains and fancy centerpieces while I'm still driving a car with 175,000 miles on it that makes a concerning grinding noise when I turn left. I've been documenting everything since day one. Call it paranoia or call it preparation. But I've kept meticulous records. 1. Original loan agreement, signed and notarized. 2. Bank transfer receipts. 3. Every text message and email before he blocked me. 4. Screenshots of his social media showing lavish purchases. 5. Timestamps of my blocked calls. 6. A detailed spreadsheet calculating the current amount owed with interest, $68,750 as of last week. After reading all your comments on my last post, I decided to reach out to Ralph directly. Maybe give him one last chance to make things right before the wedding. Spoiler alert, it went exactly as expected. I texted from Juniper's phone since he hasn't blocked her. The responses were illuminating. First, he acted surprised that I was still upset about ancient history. Then he had the audacity to say he'd get around to it after Abigail's wedding. When I pressed him on exact repayment plans, he went radio silent again. Typical. Then yesterday, I got a call from his wife, Gladys. First time I've heard her voice in almost 3 years. She was working overtime on the damage control, talking about how stressed Ralph has been planning this wedding, how he's changed, how he thinks about the debt all the time. Yeah, I bet he thinks about it while booking first-class flights and posting pics of his new home theater setup. Gladys tried to convince me to just let it go for Abigail's sake, playing the niece card, classic manipulation tactic. I almost fell for it until she mentioned how they've been saving for years for this wedding, while completely ignoring their debt to me. The absolute audacity made something snap inside me. But the real twist? Right after Gladys's call, I got a text from Abigail herself, asking if I would give a speech at the reception. Apparently, Ralph had told her I was definitely coming. News to me, and that I'd love to say a few words, since I was practically a second father to her. Second father? I haven't seen her in 3 years because her actual father has been avoiding me like I'm the damn IRS. But I've always had a soft spot for Abigail. She was always a sweet kid, even when Ralph was being Ralph. So I said yes. What better opportunity to share exactly what I think of her father? Juniper thinks I'm taking this too far. We had our first real fight about it last night. She gets that I'm angry, but she's worried about family fallout. I told her some bridges deserve to be burned. What kind of family treats each other the way Ralph treated me? Is it really family when someone takes 50 grand and then ghosts you for years while living it up? The way I see it, I have 3 options for the speech. 1. Take the high road, say nothing, and continue being a doormat. 2. Make subtle digs that only Ralph would understand. 3. Go nuclear and lay out the whole ugly truth in front of everyone he knows. I've spent 3 years taking the high road, 3 years of watching him flaunt his lifestyle on social media while I picked up weekend work just to make ends meet. 3 years of him telling family members I'm obsessed and can't let go of a gift. So I've been preparing my speech. I've practiced it in the mirror. I've refined it. I've made a damn PowerPoint presentation with a timeline of events, screenshots of texts, and calculation of interest. I've loaded it all onto a thumb drive that fits perfectly in my suit pocket. Is it petty? Absolutely. Is it justified? Even more so. I rented a decent suit for the occasion. Black tie optional, the invitation said. As if all the guests have formal wear just hanging in their closet. Another tone-deaf reminder of how disconnected Ralph is from reality, from my reality that he created. Juniper bought a new dress from a clearance rack. We're splurging on a hotel room for the night since the venue is 2 hours away from our place. That's our big luxury for the month. The wedding is this Saturday. I've taken Friday off to drive up early for the rehearsal dinner. Ralph doesn't know I'm actually coming to that, too. Another expense he's throwing money at while owing me nearly 70 grand. I found out through a mutual friend that Ralph has been telling people I'm jealous of his success. That's why I'm making up stories about him owing me money. The gaslighting is next level. I'm not just angry anymore. I'm furious. This isn't just about the money at this point. It's about the lies, the manipulation, the character assassination. So I've made a decision. Option 3 it is. Full nuclear. I'm not just bringing receipts, I'm bringing the entire filing cabinet. Yesterday, I practiced my speech for one of my buddies. He physically backed away from me by the end and just whispered, "Holy shit, dude." That's the reaction I'm going for. I got a haircut today, asked for something sharp and professional, want to look my absolute best when I destroy Ralph's carefully constructed house of cards. It might sound petty, but appearance matters. I want everyone in that room to see a responsible adult holding another adult accountable, not some bitter, disheveled guy they can easily dismiss. The thumb drive with my presentation feels like it weighs 100 pounds in my pocket. It contains 3 years of pent-up rage, carefully organized into digestible slides. I've timed the presentation to last exactly 6 minutes. That's how long it will take to completely dismantle the facade Ralph has built. Am I nervous? Weirdly, no. There's a strange calm that comes with finally standing up for yourself after years of being walked over. I've run through every possible scenario in my head. Ralph might try to cut my mic. I've got printed copies as backup. He might try to play it off as a joke. I've got dated bank statements. He might claim I gifted the money. I've got the signed loan agreement. I've thought of everything. There's no escape route for him this time. No blocking my number. No moving across town. No hiding behind his wife or daughter. Juniper has reluctantly agreed to come with me, though she plans to wait in the car during my speech. She says she supports me but doesn't want to witness the fallout. Fair enough. The most surreal part of all this? I received an email from the wedding planner yesterday with a detailed schedule. My speech is slotted for 7:45 p.m., right after the best man and before the father-daughter dance. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Ralph will have to follow my truth bomb by dancing with his daughter in front of everyone who just learned what kind of man he really is. I've arranged to have a friend record the whole thing, not to post online or anything that tacky, just for my own records. When Ralph inevitably tries to spin what happened, I'll have video evidence. Is it wrong that I'm actually looking forward to this? That after 3 years of sleepless nights and financial stress, the thought of finally getting justice makes me feel something close to joy? Maybe, but I'm past caring about what's proper or decent. Ralph certainly never did. I keep thinking about the look on his face when I stand up at that microphone, when he realizes what's about to happen. That moment of dawning horror when he understands there's nowhere to run. The rehearsal dinner is tomorrow night. I'll update you all after the wedding, assuming I'm not in jail for causing a scene. Though I checked and publicly stating fax isn't actually a crime, even if it does ruin someone's daughter's wedding. For those still saying I should take the high road or wait until after the wedding, would Ralph wait? Has he ever considered my feelings or financial well-being? The time for being the bigger person has passed. Sometimes the only language people understand is consequences. Update 2, so it happened. And holy shit, Reddit. It was even more intense than I expected. The rehearsal dinner Friday night was already awkward AF. Ralph kept glancing at me like I was a ticking bomb, which fair enough I was. He barely said 2 words to me the whole night, strategically positioning himself on the opposite side of every room. His wife Gladys, though, was working overtime on damage control, hovering around me with forced smiles, and refilling my wine glass every 5 minutes like she was trying to get me drunk enough to forget about the nearly 70 grand they owe me. The most bizarre moment came when Ralph's father-in-law cornered me by the bathroom, talking about how excited he was to back Ralph's new business venture after the wedding. Apparently, Ralph had convinced him to invest 6 figures in some fitness app concept. The old man had no idea about Ralph's history of failed businesses or the fact that he still owed me a small fortune. I almost said something then, but decided to stick to the plan. Why ruin the surprise? I barely slept that night. Not from nerves, but from anticipation. I kept checking my phone, making sure the PowerPoint presentation would load properly. By 6 a.m., I was wide awake, reviewing my notes one last time. Juniper was quiet as we got ready. She wore this blue dress she'd found on clearance, looking beautiful but stressed. She kept asking if I was absolutely sure about going through with it. I reminded her about the time we had to cancel her mom's birthday trip because we couldn't afford the flights, about our leaking roof we still haven't fixed, about the debt we're still paying off because of Ralph's lies. That shut down the questions pretty quick. The weather was perfect for a wedding. Isn't that always how it goes? Beautiful day for a complete shit show. We arrived at the venue, this ridiculously fancy vineyard with mountain views and an actual red carpet leading to the ceremony space. The kind of place that probably costs more for one day than our mortgage payment for 3 months. I spotted Ralph immediately, showing off his new watch to some guests. When he saw me, his smile froze for a second before he pretended to be distracted by something across the lawn. Real talk, watching him play the role of proud, successful father of the bride while knowing what was coming gave me a satisfaction I can't even describe. Like watching someone walk toward a trap they set themselves. The ceremony itself was actually nice. Abigail looked beautiful, and her husband Aidan seemed like a decent guy. I almost felt bad about what I was about to do. Almost. Then I remembered the nights I spent staring at my ceiling, calculating how many extra hours I needed to work just to make minimum payments on the debt that should have been Ralph's responsibility. During the family photos, Ralph tried his hardest to keep me at the edges. The photographer kept repositioning us, inadvertently putting me right next to my brother. The tension was so thick I'm surprised it didn't show up in the pictures. Ralph smelled like expensive cologne and flop sweat. At the reception, I set up early, plugged my thumb drive into the AV system while people were still finding their seats. The event coordinator was super helpful, thinking I was just adding some heartwarming photos to my speech. If she only knew. I was scheduled to speak after the best man and before the father-daughter dance. Perfect timing. Ralph wouldn't be able to escape or damage control before his big moment with Abigail. My heart was pounding as the best man wrapped up his generic speech about love and friendship. People were relaxed, slightly tipsy, completely unprepared for what was coming next. The MC announced me as Jonathan, uncle of the bride and cherished family member. The irony was not lost on me. I approached the microphone, thumb drive in hand. The room quieted down. I caught Ralph's eye across the room. He was nervously fidgeting with his champagne glass. Gladys was squeezing his arm, visibly tense. I started my speech normally enough, congratulated the couple, mentioned watching Abigail grow up, talked about family values and integrity. Standard wedding speech stuff. People were smiling, completely unaware of the incoming missile. Then I clicked to the first slide. A tale of two brothers, trust, betrayal, and $68,750. The confused murmurs started immediately. Ralph's face drained of all color. Gladys's champagne glass froze halfway to her mouth. For the next 6 minutes, I methodically laid out everything. The original loan agreement, highlighted and enlarged on screen. Bank transfer receipts. Screenshots of Ralph's increasingly desperate excuses. Photos of his luxury purchases while claiming he couldn't pay me back. A mathematical breakdown of the accrued interest over 3 years. The documentation of my blocked calls and texts. With each slide, the room grew quieter. People were exchanging glances, shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Ralph's father-in-law was staring at him with this dawning horror that would have been comical under different circumstances. The final slide showed a side-by-side comparison. Photos of the repairs my house needed that I couldn't afford next to Ralph's social media posts about his new home theater and vacation in Cabo. I finished by addressing Abigail directly, told her I was sorry this had to happen at her wedding, but that some truths couldn't stay buried, that while I truly wished her happiness, I couldn't stand by while her father continued his pattern of exploitation and dishonesty, that the true gift I could give her on her wedding day was the truth about the man who raised her. When I finished, the silence was absolute. For 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours, nobody moved. Then Ralph stood up. His face was this weird mix of rage and humiliation. He tried to speak but just made this strangled sound. Then something unexpected happened. He broke. Not the dignified kind of breaking down, the ugly, messy kind. Tears, snot, incoherent shouting. He knocked over his chair trying to leave the room, then tripped on a tablecloth. It was brutal and public, and exactly what I'd hoped for. The aftermath was chaos. Abigail was crying. Aidan looked shell-shocked. Gladys was trying to comfort Ralph while simultaneously damage-controlling with guests. Ralph's father-in-law was shouting something about fraud and investment money. I just stood there, watching it all unfold. 3 years of anger finally finding release. Was it petty? Absolutely. Was it worth it? 100%. The best part came about 20 minutes later, when Ralph's father-in-law cornered him in the hallway. I couldn't hear everything, but phrases like pulling my investment and lawyer were definitely thrown around. Turns out the old man had already transferred a sizable deposit for Ralph's new business, money that would now be recalled, leaving Ralph with broken promises to suppliers and developers. I found out later that 3 other potential investors were at the wedding too. All of them withdrew their support by the end of the night. Ralph's house of cards didn't just collapse, it burst into flames. Abigail approached me before we left. Her makeup was ruined from crying, but her voice was surprisingly steady. She told me she'd suspected something was off about her dad's sudden wealth, but never knew the details. She didn't defend him or ask me why I did it. She just said she needed time to process everything. Fair enough. On our way out, Gladys tried one last desperate attempt at damage control. She slipped a check into my jacket pocket for $12,000. Apparently, they'd been saving it as a first installment on their debt to me. Too little, too late. I tore it up in front of her and dropped the pieces at her feet. The principle matters more than the money at this point. It's been 2 weeks since the wedding. The fallout has been exactly what you'd expect. Ralph's reputation is in shambles. His new business venture collapsed before it started. His in-laws are threatening legal action for misrepresentation. And according to mutual friends, he's been drinking heavily and lashing out at everyone. As for me, my phone blew up for days after the wedding. Some family members think I'm a hero for exposing Ralph's lies. Others think I'm the biggest asshole on the planet for choosing a wedding to do it. I've been blocked by about half of my extended family on social media. Juniper's parents haven't spoken to us since it happened. Do I regret it? Not even slightly. For the first time in 3 years, I sleep through the night. The weight of being the only one who knew the truth is finally gone. Ralph's carefully constructed facade has crumbled, and everyone can see him for who he really is, a liar, a thief, and a coward. I still won't get my money back anytime soon. Ralph's financial situation is apparently dire now that his father-in-law pulled out of the business deal. But watching him lose everything he built on lies feels like justice of a different kind. Juniper has come around too. She admitted last night that while my methods were extreme, seeing Ralph finally face consequences has been satisfying for her too. She sacrificed just as much as I did because of his selfishness. Some of you might think I went too far, that I should have handled it privately or waited until after the wedding. To you I say, I gave Ralph 3 years of chances to handle this privately. He chose to lie, to avoid, to gaslight. He chose to spend money on luxury while I struggled. He made his bed, and now he's lying in it. I heard through the grapevine that Ralph and Gladys have canceled their anniversary trip to Hawaii, that they're trying to sell their second car, that they had to explain to their country club friends why they suddenly can't afford the membership fees. Small consequences compared to what they put me through, but satisfying nonetheless. Is this the end of our relationship? Absolutely. Some bridges don't deserve to be rebuilt. Some people don't deserve second chances. I've freed myself from the burden of Ralph's betrayal, and that's worth more than the money he stole from me.